Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And in the wake of Skyrim's recent, not-so-fantastic Creation Club releases, I figured what better time to give some recognition to some of Skyrim's most ambitious upcoming mods. Actually, that's a lie. I've been playing this video for like a week now. This is just good timing. Regardless, 6.5 years after Skyrim released in 2011, its talented modding scene has arguably been the biggest driving force behind its continued relevance, producing everything from massive expansions that take us to new lands to small fixes to annoying bugs. Well, today we are going to again set our eyes on what the future holds, particularly regarding some of the largest mods currently in development. Last time I did a video on this was back in December, and it was specifically in regards to DLC-sized mods coming out in 2018. That said, there's still plenty of major and noteworthy projects in the works that aren't offering a set release date, or that I just didn't get a chance to cover last time. So sit back and enjoy as we take a look at 5 upcoming DLC-sized mods for The Elder Scrolls V that will be releasing eventually-ish. Starting off, we have Forgotten Stories. Now, this mod is a bit unique from the rest of the ones on our list. Innovate that Forgotten Stories is actually set to be an expansion, or as the developers are calling it, a DLC to an already existing mod, known as Enderal. Enderal, for those of you who somehow haven't already heard, was a huge total conversion mod for Skyrim that released back in 2016. Enderal didn't take place in the Elder Scrolls universe, but instead took players to an entirely different open fantasy world, known as Vin. The specific continent the mod took place on was called Enderal, unrelated to anything Elder Scrolls related, with its own lore and backstory. Relying simply on Skyrim's own engine and graphical resources, it was in many ways its own game. Enderal featured around 30 to 100 hours of additional content depending on the way you played, including its own main quest and side quests, a new world space around 80% the size of Skyrim's, and a hell of a lot more. Enderal is regarded as one of, if not the most ambitious and largest modding project Skyrim's seen released. Well, the mod team behind Enderal, Sure AI, is now currently working on what they call an Enderal DLC, called Forgotten Stories. Forgotten Stories is set to contain an additional 10 to 20 hours worth of gameplay, focused on restoring much of the story-based content the developers had to hold off on in Enderal's initial release, as well as introduce a variety of new items, mechanics, and, of course, quests. Forgotten Stories began its development in 2016, and the modders initially hoped for a 2017 release, though it's obvious they did sorta miss that mark. In a recent update posted by one of the team members, it was stated that the developers are now mostly focused on voice implementation and finishing up some of the final quests, so it seems like they're relatively close to completion. The modders are no longer providing an official estimated release, but Enderal Forgotten Stories certainly seems to look promising, regardless of when it comes out. Next on our list is a project many of you are probably already familiar with, Skywind. Skywind is a mod that seeks to effectively remaster The Elder Scrolls III Morrowind on the more modern engine of The Elder Scrolls V, taking advantage of Skyrim's enhanced graphical capabilities and various mechanical improvements. The modders behind Skywind are seeking to restore as much of Morrowind as possible, bringing back, or more precisely, recreating its characters, items, quests, textures, world space, and even some of its unique systems and game mechanics. But among restoration, the modders are also seeking to improve some of Morrowind, completely recasting the game's voice dialogue to offer more diversity between actors, and also voice many dialogue lines that Bethesda didn't. Furthermore, on top of sounds and graphics, Skyrim's enhanced AI systems are also another big focal point. You see, back in 2002, Morrowind's rather static, lifeless, still AI were just fine. However, 16 years later, much of the game's NPC cast can get to feel a bit weird, as they simply idle around all day, never bothering to eat, sleep, or just walk around. The Skywind team intends to take advantage of The Elder Scrolls V's AI improvements to correct this, recreating characters that actually feel like people, or elves, or Argonian, you get the point. Skywind currently has no estimated release date or timetable, however has been making constant progress for over 5 years now, and shows no sign of stopping or slowing down. It is also worth noting that Skywind is the sister project of another major upcoming mod known as Skyblivion. Skyblivion is effectively doing the same thing Skywind is doing with Morrowind, just to Oblivion, intending to remaster The Elder Scrolls IV on Skyrim's engine. However, I decided to give this spot to Skywind on the list, as I'll be doing another entire video on Skyblivion sometime in the near future. Our third spot is a sequel to an already existing and extremely popular release, Legacy of the Dragonborn is a story-heavy mod that originally released for Skyrim all the way back in 2014. It brought forth a huge new questline and guild, hundreds of new items and a nice player home to put them all in, as well as made some additions to Skyrim's world space by creating new dungeons and visitable locations. Well, now in development, Odyssey of the Dragonborn is set to effectively be Legacy's sequel. While Legacy of the Dragonborn storyline centered around recovering artifacts of the previous Dragonborns, Odyssey of the Dragonborn's plot will instead revolve around the player's attempt to stop the Thalmor from creating a new weapon that they intend to use to conquer all of Tamriel. As the story develops, the modders promise the Dragonborn can either stop, or even be bested by these elven foes. Odyssey's story will take players to a variety of iconic locations in Tamriel throughout this journey, such as Morrowind's Red Mountain and the floating island of Umbriel, just to name a couple. Odyssey's development began back in 2016, so it's fairly deep into production, though no ETA has been offered yet on when it will exactly release. Coming in at number 4, we must mention Beyond Skyrim 3 Kingdoms. By now, most of you watching this video are probably very familiar with the Beyond Skyrim project. It's a collaboration of various modding teams that are each working to bring a separate part of Tamriel to life as an Elder Scrolls V mod. Back in July of 2017, their Cyrodiil team released Beyond Skyrim Bruma as a pre-release to the rest of the province in order to gain community feedback and stir up some excitement, before moving on to complete the development of the rest of Cyrodiil, which is what they're working on now. Well, Beyond Skyrim 3 Kingdoms, as it's being called, is the upcoming pre-release by the Reliek Bay team. The Reliek Bay team is currently developing both the provinces of High Rock and Hammerfell, and it looks like their complete mod will actually be much bigger than Skyrim itself. It's very ambitious, though is still quite a ways away. However, right now, much like their Cyrodiil counterparts we just mentioned, the Reliek Bay folks at Beyond Skyrim are also intending to have a smaller pre-release of their own, that's coming much sooner comparatively speaking. The pre-release, 3 Kingdoms, will take place on an island chain that lies off the coast of Hammerfell, as well as some of the western regions of High Rock. The total playable area itself, I'm unsure of, though I've been told it'll be of similar size to Bruma. Like Bruma, 3 Kingdoms itself will have no main questline. That's for the full release. Instead, the world will feel more like an additional hold to Skyrim, populated with settlements, dungeons, and the like, with its own variety of side quests that are mostly independently offered. As you should probably be expecting considering the nature of this video, the Reliek Bay pre-release has no estimated release date. The modders will be done with it when they're done with it, essentially. And finally, last on our list, is the Elder Scrolls V Olenveld. Olenveld is an upcoming mod taking the Dragonborn to an island off the coast of Winterhold, named Olenveld. The mod comes stacked with all the promises of bells and whistles we hope for when thinking of expansion mods, and then some. An entire new playable area, a new questline dictated by a struggle between 2 competing factions that you can choose from, new items and spells, new characters and enemies, and of course, new dungeons. Olenveld itself is only mentioned in the Elder Scrolls lore through a book titled Exodosis, which appears in both Oblivion and Skyrim. The book describes Olenveld as a strange, mysterious, forgotten island. It doesn't appear on any maps, and few even know of its existence. The book alleges that Olenveld was used as a graveyard of sorts by Tiber Septim during his conquests. He'd essentially dumped bodies of fallen troops on the island when he had nowhere else to put them. Since then, by the time Skyrim takes place in the 4th era, Olenveld is now home to a small cult of necromancers, who practice their craft on the island using the abundant human remains, and it's all in secret. But that's essentially everything we know about this strange region. The modders haven't commented too much on the direction of where they intend to take this story, but there's certainly an interesting platform to work with. Olenveld's mod author actually does have a release window currently being targeted. That is summer of 2018, though he notes that such a window is very much subjected to change, depending on what hurdles are encountered throughout the mod's development. And with that, we are going to wrap up. Thanks for stopping by, everyone. Which of these mods on this list were your personal favorites? To be honest, I'm excited for all of them. And what upcoming mods are you aware of that I haven't covered yet? Leave a comment down below. In the description will also be links to all of these mod projects' various pages and community forums whenever they're available, so you can learn more about them and interact with the developers. But again, thanks for coming by, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everyone.